Quality proteins aren't just for special occasions. With Omaha Steaks, you get unbeatable flavor and value delivered right to your door. They have an unmatched selection of perfectly portioned proteins, including USDA-certified tender steaks, burgers, chicken, pork, seafood, and more. All flash frozen at their moment of peak quality, then quickly delivered to your door in a dependable cooler. So a great dinner is just minutes away. From Taco Tuesday to a weekend feast. Omaha Steaks practically invented meat delivery, and they've been perfecting the art of premium proteins for over 100 years. With their 100% satisfaction guarantee, you can order with complete confidence. Taste the Omaha Steaks difference, a better, more convenient way to buy proteins. Start getting flavorful proteins delivered today. Visit omahasteaks.com and get $35 off with promo code AUDIO at checkout. That's omahasteaks.com, code AUDIO. Terms apply. See site for details.
Some of the most damaging relationships are the hardest ones to explain, and they don't have to look extreme in order to be deeply harmful. Welcome to the Covert Narcissism podcast, where we make sense of what never quite made sense. If you've been listening for a while, you may already understand what's happening in your relationship. You can see the patterns, you can name the behaviors, but maybe you still feel stuck in the same cycle. This is where coaching comes in. It's not about learning more, it's about having the support to finally apply what you already know and begin moving forward. You need a coach. If you're ready for that next step, I invite you to join me in my coaching program. You can learn more about it at covertnarcissism.com. Today we are talking about what happens when you can no longer live the lie in a covert narcissistic relationship, when you have finally hit what I call the wall. There came a point in my marriage where I stopped feeling anything at all. Not relief, not anger, not grief, nothing. Now, I am a type A personality. I give everything I have. When I'm in, I'm all in. That's just who I am. And I had been all in on this marriage, on this family, on trying to make it work for years. I had spent 2 decades trying to figure out what was wrong. What was I doing wrong? Years of trying to find the right way to say the right thing at the right time. Adjusting, shrinking, adapting, performing. Until one day, there just was nothing left. When I finally said the word divorce to him, I had no emotional reaction to it. Not before I said it, not during the conversation, not even after it. I felt like a ghost inside my own skin. And if you know that feeling, or any version of it, I am sorry. I wish no one understood what I'm talking about. But sadly, I know you do, and I have heard from many of you. And if we're all going to have to go through this independently of each other, then I'm so glad we have each other. At least we know that we are not alone. And today we're talking about hitting the wall. That moment when you can no longer live the lie. You can no longer keep pretending that things are fine, that you are fine, that your family is fine, because it's not fine. And I want to say this right up front, the wall does not look the same for everyone. In my experience, both from my own life and from the many people I have worked with, there are really 2 distinct paths to this moment. Both are real, both are valid, and if you've been living in a covert narcissistic relationship, you've probably experienced at least one of them, maybe both. Now, the first path is a slow erosion. There's no single event you can point to, no dramatic scene that took place. There's just this gradual wearing away of you, of your energy, your time, your love for life, everything that you are. That was a lot of my path. And looking back, I can see it in 3 very clear ways, mentally, emotionally, and physically. Mentally, I lost the capacity to think straight. I lost the ability to use my mind spontaneously and to devote it to the different aspects of life that I wanted to spend my mental energy on. I was constantly thinking about him and his reactions. I was thinking through 50 different ways to say something before words came out of my mouth. That had become my normal. Carefully crafting every word, every conversation, every response, so that it would land without setting him off, and as you know, still to no success there. Working so hard to say what needed to be said without it turning into something else. And at some point, as you know, I simply couldn't do that anymore. My mental bandwidth was gone. Even being as careful as I could, he was still upset about something. So I no longer had the mental space to figure it out. I couldn't manage his reactions anymore. And I couldn't manage my own reality living in this environment anymore. I was done. Emotionally, I became numb. And I want to be honest about how unsettling that was for me, because numbness is not me. I feel things very deeply. I carry an enormous amount of care and compassion. That is the core of who I am. So when I realized I didn't care anymore, that hurt. I didn't care about the arguments. I didn't care about trying to fix it. I didn't care about his reactions. I didn't care about the relationship. And I even reached the point where I noticed moments that I didn't care about my own kids. And that really hurt. It was because I didn't have any care left. And I knew something had fundamentally changed inside of me. My emotional well had run dry. Physically, my body was rebelling. Muscle tension that would not go away. Headaches every day. Fatigue that sleep did not touch. No motivation, no energy. I saw the book title, The Body Keeps Score, and I immediately knew what it was talking about. I immediately understood, yeah, that person gets it. My body was telling me loudly and clearly that I was losing and that I could not keep living this way. If you are experiencing any of this, the mental exhaustion, the emotional flatness, the physical symptoms that your doctor can't explain, I want you to hear me. Your body, your mind, your heart are not malfunctioning. They are responding rationally to an irrational amount of sustained stress. They are screaming at you that this is too much, and it's time you need to listen. Now, the second path, it looks different on the surface. It is more an all of a sudden awareness. Something happens, a specific event, a big blow up, catching them in a lie, a screaming match, a moment that you can point to, and something inside of you cracked open. You are done. You can't get past it. You can't move on. And now you can't unknow what you know. You can't unsee what you see. Now, even though my path was the gradual one, I had some breaking moments too, and one that really stood out. It was a quiet moment sitting in our bedroom. I had asked him if he would go to therapy, if he would explore his thought processes, his reactions, the impact his childhood had had on him. This is where we were in this conversation. He had not answered yet. Nobody had gotten explosive and angry and mad. This was a simple, quiet conversation. And we were sitting there in silence. That long, uncomfortable silence that I was all too familiar with. But this time it was different. At least on the inside of me it was. I wasn't sitting there in dread. I didn't even have a feeling of fear. I wasn't in a fight or flight response. I was actually very present and quite calm. I remember thinking very clearly during this long pause that his answer right here will decide the path of our marriage. If he says no, I'm done. And he said no. In that moment, so much of our relationship became crystal clear, and I would never unsee it after that. For you, the breaking point might look different. It might be catching a lie that you can no longer explain away. It might be words that were yelled and screamed that you can never unhear. It might be watching your child be belittled one time too many, and you can never unsee that. It's a moment of absolute clarity where you see the relationship exactly as it is, without the fog. It is a shift that cannot shift back. Now, some of you, like me, have experienced both the slow erosion over years and then a specific event you can point to that finally cracked it all the way open. One does not cancel out the other, both are very real. But when you hit that wall that I can no longer live this lie, there are massive impacts. You are living within a system, one that I recently called the cult of two. It is a closed, controlled dynamic with its own rules, its own language, its own gravity. And when someone inside that system starts to shift, the whole system feels it. Now, for you, there's a strange mix of feelings at this stage, and not all of them are what you would expect. Yes, there's going to be sadness and grief. You would expect that. There's going to be fear about what comes next. You would expect that. But there can also be a very quiet, unsettling sense of relief. Like some part of you has finally exhaled after holding its breath for years or decades. For me, it was a numbness, that flatness that I described, but there was a strange kind of peace in it. Not happiness, not joy, just the absence of the constant effort. My mind started to rest for the first time in a long time, and this was before I ever filed for divorce, because I quit pouring in all the effort. And to some degree, radical acceptance finally had hit too. I had stopped fighting this battle inside myself, and I saw things now for what they were. I quit trying to fix it. For the covert narcissist, they often sense this shift before you ever say a single word about it. Surprisingly enough, covert narcissists are deeply attuned to the emotional temperature of the people around them. Not out of empathy and care, mind you, out of control. They are experts at controlling your emotions. They've built an entire relational world around keeping you in a particular position, such as beneath them. When you begin to step out of that position, they feel the change in the dynamic. Now, this can manifest in different ways. Some will now escalate. They become more critical, more demanding, more volatile, as if turning up the pressure will bring you back in line. Others might go unusually quiet, almost watchful, and you can guarantee that they have some form of manipulation that they are planning. Still others will become suddenly warm and attentive, pulling out behaviors, we call them love bombing, that remind you of who you thought they were in the beginning, in the hopes of winning you back. Now, none of these responses are about you. They're all about them and their loss of control over you. Now, for your family, there's an impact there as well. Your children, if you have any in the relationship, are often more aware than you think. Children are extraordinarily sensitive to the emotional undercurrents in a home. They may not have the words for what they are sensing, but they certainly feel it. They feel the tension, the mood shifts, the change in the air. They are absolutely impacted by what is going on within their home. So keep your eyes and your heart on them. Find help for them if you need. Find help for you to help you help them. We will talk more about the impact on your kids in an upcoming episode when we get into the aftermath after this relationship starts to dissolve. But for now, I'm going to stay focused on you. Let's talk about what happens internally when you decide or need to finally say something out loud to the covert narcissist about your perspective on all of this. There will come the point at which you do have to say something. For me, I had tried to open that door many times before. I had tried to be honest with him, to be vulnerable, to invite him into an open and genuine conversation about what was happening between us. But every time I reached for that door, it was slammed shut in my face. So what did I do? I said I'm type A personality. I dug in. I tried harder. That's who I am. I gave it everything I had. I exhausted every option I could think of. I desperately wanted to fix this. But eventually I ran out of options and I ran out of steam. So internally, I waved the white flag. Not toward him, not outwardly, but toward the effort itself. I had no more words, and this is where I say I hit that wall. Now, I want to talk about this for just a second. That moment of knowing that you're done. It is different from giving up on the marriage or immediately walking away. It isn't about that. It's a clarity that comes when you have genuinely done everything you can do. It is the moment that the fog lifts just enough for you to see the situation for what it truly is and know that this is outside of your control. And yet, even when you reach that place, there is still a voice, and you may know it well, that says, am I sure? Am I making this up? Did I create this? What if I'm overreacting? What if I'm wrong? That voice is the result of years of being trained to doubt yourself. Covert narcissism thrives on exactly this, on keeping you in a permanent state of self-questioning so that you never fully trust your own perception. And if you are struggling with that "what if I'm wrong" spiral, I've done a full episode on this recently, and I will link it in the show notes, because it is one of the most common and most paralyzing places that we get stuck. Even with the doubt, even with the fear, even with the shaking inside your body or in your voice, you can decide to speak your truth anyways. So let's talk about the conversation itself, because this is terrifying. This conversation is almost never going to go the way you hope. And I'm not saying that to discourage you. I'm saying it because I want you to walk in with realistic expectations. This will help keep you grounded when things go sideways, and they will. You are not going to get an agreement. You are not going to magically get the easiest conversation of your relationship, the one you've been hoping for all along. You are probably not going to get an apology, at least not a genuine one. You are not going to get them to suddenly see what you see. And that is not because you said it wrong or you did it wrong. It is because the person across from you is not oriented toward honesty and mutual accountability. That is the nature of this dynamic. So I want you to ask yourself, what are you actually trying to do in this conversation with them? Because if you are trying to get them to see it, that is going to be extremely frustrating. So instead, what is it you're trying to do? You are naming your reality. You are stating this for you. You are stating what you know to be true about your own experience. You are drawing a line, whether you call it a boundary or an intention or simply a declaration that you cannot continue this way. And in some deep way, you are saying it out loud so that you can hear yourself say it. You're saying it for you, maybe for the first time ever, because you have lived so long inside a system designed to make you question your own reality. Hearing your truth come out of your mouth, plainly and clearly, it's a profound act. Even if they dismiss it, and they probably will, even if they flip it back on you, and they probably will, even if they don't believe you, that doesn't matter. You said it, and you heard it. Now, when you do confront a covert narcissist with the reality of the impact they have had on you, on the marriage, on the family, you can expect some very specific responses from them. Look back at your life with them. How do you expect them to respond based on the pattern they have shown you? If you haven't heard of DARVO, dig into that and do some research on it. DARVO stands for Deny, Attack, and Reverse Victim and Offender. They deny what you have described, they attack your perception or your character, and then they position themselves as the real victim of your offense. You came in with your pain, and you find yourself suddenly defending yourself against theirs. Expect it. Don't engage with it, but expect it. How about minimizing? You're overreacting. I never said that. You always do this. Your experience is reduced, dismissed, or reframed as evidence of your instability rather than anything to do with their behavior. You might also find tears or an emotional collapse. And this one can be especially disorienting because it can feel sensitive. It can feel like they care. Suddenly they become the one who is broken and hurting, and your instinct may be to comfort them, to set aside what you came to say and instead tend to their pain. Be aware of this pull. It can pull your focus away from your truth. Remember, the purpose of this conversation is for you to speak your truth. Or you might be met with an eerie calm, a flatness, a studied reasonableness that makes you feel like that you must be the one who is being dramatic. Covert narcissists can be remarkably composed when they are internally in crisis, because the composure itself is another form of control that knocks you off balance. Now, there are a few things that can help you stay grounded when things go sideways. Before you enter this conversation, know your 1 or 2 points, the most important points that you are wanting to say. Don't go in with a list of every grievance. The more you give them, the more they will attack, the more they will flip the script. Just go in with your core truth that needs to be named, that you need to name. And when the conversation starts to spiral or go off course, simply return to those points. I also suggest that you do not defend your experience. Do not defend these 1 or 2 points. You do not have to prove it. You are not presenting a case for their approval. You are stating your truth. If they disagree, that's fine. In fact, expect it. Then it won't knock you off balance when it happens. Also know that you are allowed to end the conversation. If it becomes abusive, if it devolves into an attack on your character, or if you simply need space, you are allowed to say, I'm not going to continue this conversation right now, and leave the room. That's not avoidance, it's self-protection. And finally, release the expectation of their validation. You did not walk in there to get their permission to feel what you feel. You already know what you know. Their response to it doesn't change that. Know why you are voicing this to them, not for their approval, but out of your need to finally speak your truth. You have hit the wall. You have felt it in your body, in your mind, in the hollowed out place where your feelings used to live. So if you have hit that wall, you feel it in your body, in your mind, in the hollowed out place where your feelings used to live, then maybe it's time to say the words for the first time ever. It is time to name your reality out loud to the person who has spent years helping you to doubt it. Now, what are those words? For me, the words were, I can't keep living like this. I am hurting, and I am done trying to help you understand. Find what your words need to be. Simple and honest. Write them down. Repeat them to yourself. What are the words that speak to where you are in this relationship? And once you have said them out loud, please know that now the real storm does begin. In an upcoming episode, we are going to talk about the aftermath of speaking your truth out loud. What your covert narcissistic person does next after you tell them how you feel. What happens to you emotionally, the whiplash, the doubt, the loneliness of having told the truth and still feeling unheard. What happens to your children and your family. And what you actually need in this season to survive it and begin to move through it. Because hitting the wall is not the end. It's the beginning. It is the beginning of accepting your truth. And it is that truth that will finally set you free. Until next time, I wish you so much peace on your journey of healing. If you've been listening for a while, you may already understand what's happening in your relationship. You can see the patterns, you can name the behaviors, but maybe you still feel stuck in the same cycle. This is where coaching comes in. It's not about learning more. It's about having the support to finally apply what you already know and begin to move forward. If you're ready for that next step, I invite you to join me in my coaching program. You can learn more about it at covertnarcissism.com. Your story matters, and you deserve to be heard without judgment. Check out my coaching services at my website, again, covertnarcissism.com. And don't forget to subscribe, to thumbs up, to follow, to like this podcast so that you can get more empowering episodes like this one and to help us continue spreading the word so that our community can continue to grow. I wish you so much peace on your journey of healing. The information provided by Renee Swanson, Covert Narcissism Podcast, and CNG Life Coaching is for educational purposes only and is not to be used for diagnosis purposes and not intended to be a substitute for clinical care. Please consult a healthcare provider for guidance specific to your case. This material discusses narcissism in general. Renee shares stories from her personal experience as well as from those she has talked with for several years. Her material does not claim that any specific person has narcissism and should not be used to refer to any specific person as having narcissism. Permission is not granted to link to or repost this material to support any allegation or support a claim that any specific person is a narcissist. That would be an unauthorized misuse of this material and information provided.
If you like the show, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe. It really does help the show to grow. Thank you for listening.